So great. I too am really pleased to be part of this inaugural meeting of this society, and I'm really excited about the opportunities for there to be sharing of thoughts and learning amongst different researchers and practitioners working in different areas, and sort of allowing for cross-pollination of ideas. So in the spirit of that, when Vincent and Sophie asked me to speak, I decided rather than speak specifically about one study, I'm going to do my pitch to you, because most of you here do research with adults or work with adults. My pitch to you about why you should be interested in the developmental psychology research on children's lying, and why some of the ideas there might be of interest to you and might spark some new ideas. So with that said, I am going to, I have a whirlwind amount of time, so I decided to keep it to 3 ideas that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is, one of the things that I think developmental psychology, in my humble opinion, has done well, has been to creatively think of ways to look at actual lie-telling behavior, actual deception. And because this is not a very easy thing to do, right? It's not easily observable. If I go to the playground, if I go to someone's workplace, it's not easy to observe someone's lying because I can't always verify that they've lied. I don't always know what ground truth is. So we have to create experimental momentums where we know if people are lying. But although there are some situations where people may be instructed to lie, a lot of the times when we're lying, it's spontaneous. We're deciding ourselves that we are going to lie or conceal something. So it also has to be spontaneous, where we aren't necessarily telling the children to lie. And also has to be within the bounds of, ethical bounds. And a lot of the researchers, the developmental psychology researchers, they're not only interested in looking at development and how that children's lie-telling development, but they're also interested in sort of applied contexts such as forensic and the psychology law literature, looking at cases where children may be asked to conceal someone else's behavior that have done, has committed a crime, or in cases where there's been abuse, for instance, and they're being told to keep it a secret. And you can see that, we can't ethically put children in that kind of situation, in an abuse situation. So we have to think creatively of ways to create analogous situations to the types of different situations that children may be lying. So developmental psychologists, research have come up with lots of different paradigms to look at a whole range of lies. And I've sort of listed some of them here. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but I'm going to give you an idea of a few of them. And the first one, and the one that is dominates within the developmental literature, and the first one we worked on was the temptation resistance paradigm. So originally Sears, Alford, and Raw in like 1965 developed this to look at whether children could resist temptation. And what we did was we adapted it to look at their lie-telling behavior. So in this first study that I did with Kong Lee, we had children 3 to 7 years of age. And in this case, the temptation was the toys that was behind their back. And each one made an exciting noise. So this one was a baby and it cried, and children had to guess what it is. And for the last toy, the toy was put on the table, and the children were very explicitly told that they could not peek at the toy. And there was a hidden camera to catch what they did. So we later could find out what ground truth was. And the researcher would, after going get some papers, would come back in, and the researcher asked, did you turn around and look at the toy to see if children would confess or whether they would lie? Now, very importantly, if you want to study children's lie or adults lie telling to conceal their transgressions, you have to make it a very tempting situation where they might actually transgress and then choose to lie. So this was a highly tempting situation. And in this case, about, at that age, about 80% of children will peek at the toy. It's really exciting for them. So we wanted to see, will they lie and say, no, I didn't peek, or will they say yes and confess to peeking? And then we asked them follow-up questions. What do you think the toy is? And how do you know that it's that? To see if they could maintain their lie beyond the initial statement. Now, the thing about that is that's kind of in more recent research with adults, we talked about using unanticipated questions with adults to see if we can detect them. Well, this is really exactly what this is too, right? Seeing if they can maintain that lie when they're kind of asked questions beyond just the initial question. Um, can they anticipate a plausible explanation? And what we found is that by 4 or 5 years of age, children will start to tell these lies, but they're not very good lie tellers. They're poor lie tellers. And in fact, they have difficulty maintaining the lies when asked follow-up questions. So as they get older, they get better at maintaining those lies. Now, this situation has been used many ways. So it's not just used with toys, but it can be used. The main thing is that there's something that they're told not to do, and then they can cheat by it, and whether they will then lie about that. So, for instance, with adolescents, with adults, with children, we've used, where they've had to, they could peek at a quiz or a test. There's an answer key they can peek, and whether they will then later confess to cheating. So the main point being is that there is this temptation to transgress, and it can be adapted and has been adapted by developmental research in quite a few number of ways. And this is the dominant way that developmental researchers have looked at lying. And this allows us not only to look at the development of lying, but also different factors and motivational factors, social factors that impact lying. Another paradigm that's being used is the disappointing gift paradigm. So again, this was adapted from a previous task that was looking at children's understanding of social conventional rules to be polite. And so in this, you can get a great, exciting toy or a slinky, or you can get a cruddy bar of soap, which is a little disappointing. And what we can do with that is we can look at their nonverbal behavior. So the red line here is their undesirable gift, and you see their reaction when they're left to open that gift. They're like, they got soap. Ooh, who wants soap? And then the gift giver comes back into the room and asks them, oh, do you like the gift I gave you? And there you see the big, oh, yes, thank you, smile. So we're able to look at their ability to lie in these politeness situations. And we're also able to look at how different factors can motivate them. So an example with the disappointing gift paradigm is my former student, Mina Popliker. She gave him a desirable gift for completing a task. And then after a second gift, she gave him the undesirable gift, and she really amped it up. She had knitted socks she'd made, and she said, oh, I want to give you this gift. I made it myself. I hope you really like them. And in the high cost condition, they could only keep one of the gifts. So there was harm to their self-interest. If they said, oh yeah, I like it, because they're going to lose this desirable gift. In the low cost condition, it didn't really matter because they could keep both. And you see in the light gray here, most children will tell a politeness lie when there's a low cost. They will tell that. But when you see that there's high cost to self, you see that it grows with age, and it's more the majority of children not till about 11 or 12 start to tell these kinds of lies. To show you another kind of paradigm, there's many that's been used that are more forensically designed to look at those types of situations. This is an example where in our lab, they see a researcher steal $20. So they actually see and witness an actual crime. And the researcher says, oh, don't tell anyone I stole this $20. And so then later we interview the children and we look at different variables and how we question them and how we can how that will impact whether they're more likely to disclose this actual real life crime. So in doing this, we've been able to, developmental researchers have been able to look at the role of cognition, the social environment and motivational factors and how this impacts lying. And I don't really have time to tell you all the research on this, but what the predominant amount of research in this area is looked at the relationship between cognitive development. And one very clear finding that has come out is that lie telling emerges and develops in relation to cognitive development. Theory of mind, executive functioning in particular, predict the development of lying in humans. And so for instance, having higher theory of mind when you're a preschooler and at 3 elementary school years predicts the emergence of your lying, and also you're developing better lie telling skills. However, more recent research is suggesting that there are more nuances to this. And so this is a study by Jennifer Lavoie, who's a former student of mine now at the University of Edinburgh. And because I don't have time, I'm going to direct you to the dotted line mainly. So the dotted line shows you children who are particularly at a high frequency in early adolescence. So we're looking at 11 to 14-year-olds, tell a high frequency of antisocial lies, where they're telling lies to blame others, to protect themselves. And what we find is that these children, what predicts their lie telling behavior is low theory of mind. Whereas children in the straight line, these are occasional liars who take a lower frequency of lying, and they tend to have higher theory of mind. So what we're suggesting is that the research is now showing how there may be different profiles of lying, and cognition may be able to tease out how that may develop, initially support normative lying, but as we go on, this may support different profiles of lying as we go up into the age, into adolescence and into adulthood. Also, developmental researchers are really interested in, how does the social environment impact this? And so just one quick early study that we did, we did in West Africa, and we had children who went to school with very punitive corporal punishment in the red bar. Other kids who were in a non-corporal punishment school, and compared to the Canadian comparison group where there was no corporal punishment. And you see that children in the punitive environment were more likely to lie, and they were better lie tellers. So this suggests that also your social environment can then lead to whether this becomes a strategy, lie telling becomes a strategy that you frequently may use and may actually foster you at getting better at it faster. So just to end off, because I know we're running out of time, the last point I want to make is about promoting children's truthful reports. I know that a lot of you look at deception detection, and I know that's really predominant and important to look at, and developmental researchers have looked at that. But the fact is, as we've just seen, that even though children are actually not skilled lie tellers, and especially verbally, they can kind of not give plausible answers sometimes, we're still really bad at detecting their deception because we're just not good at detecting deception. The flip side of that is, okay, so we're not the best at detecting deception. How do we then promote children's truthful reports? And developmental researchers have done quite a bit and are very interested in this. So there's a lot of different things that are being done. I'm just going to summarize them sort of broadly here. One of the very early studies that we did found that, and this has been replicated by myself and others in other labs, is that a simple tool is just asking children to promise to tell the truth. This seems to act as a moral reminder about the obligation of telling the truth, and it significantly increases the likelihood that children will tell the truth. It doesn't wipe it out. Some children are still going to lie. Nothing wipes out lie telling, but we can increase the likelihood that children will tell the truth. Moral stories, Kong Lee and myself have found that moral stories can also act as moral reminders for children and increase the likelihood that they will tell the truth. Just giving messages that emphasize positive consequences can also increase the likelihood that a child will tell the truth. So saying, I'll be really happy with you if you tell me the truth, or you'll feel really good about yourself if you tell the truth because it's the right thing to do. This can increase the likelihood of truth telling. Also, myself and other researchers have found that models of honesty can, if you see someone being honest, that can increase the likelihood that you'll be honest. However, the flip side is also true. If you see models of dishonesty, then that can also lead to more lie-telling behavior. Angela Evans and her research lab have found that self-awareness can increase honesty. So putting a mirror there when the child is engaging in the TRB can increase their truth-telling. Gail Heyman and Kong Lee and their labs have looked at reputation and found that reputation can impact whether children will lie or tell the truth. So for instance, children that hear that their teacher thinks that they're a really good person are more likely to not cheat. Whereas children who hear that they are thought of as being really smart are more likely to cheat. In the more forensic kind of context, there have been other things that have looked at. Two examples are the putative confession done by Tom Lyon and Jody Quaz and their teams, which have found that, in situations where an instigator says to them, says to the child, don't tell anyone about this, for a secret. It's very important you don't tell anyone. Well, they found when the interviewer comes in and says, so and so told me that you can tell me everything. Children are more likely to disclose in those situations. And recently in our lab, we found that having a rapport building phase where the interviewer engages in trust building activities with the children were more likely to disclose the theft of the $20 to the interviewer, even though the instigator had asked them to keep it a secret. So to conclude, generally children's lie telling emerges and gets better with age. And this really seems to be part of the tied to their cognitive abilities, but also the role of cognition, social environment, and motivational factors may have an interplay in terms of how we use that strategy and whether we maintain using that strategy frequently or just occasionally as we get on, and may then result in some people, for instance, having trajectories of becoming more prolific liars, more compulsive liars, whereas other people become more occasional liars. And also, the research has looked at different ways of developing encouraging honesty, and things like moral reminders and modeling honesty and emphasizing the positive consequences can have an impact in reducing lie telling in certain situations. So I hope that gives you some food for thought. And if you have any questions, please ask them now. I know we're running out of time, or you can email me. My email's here and also my lab address. Thank you.